Well, it started off in reality, when I was 9 years old, quite frankly. And that is that my mother, at that time, took me out to Hyde Park, and I would be running around like any kid, playing. This is on a Sunday. And what happened was, my mother had one of these box cameras, and on top of there's a little thing that you looked in, and so she gave me the camera, and she says, hold it here, and then you just press the little button. Well, I was always a very inquisitive kid. I had to know how things happened. So what happened really was, I took that and I went back and played again. Well, Mom sent it in at that time to be processed. And when it came back, she showed me the picture. And I had to know why, by me just pressing this little thing on the side, I got a picture. So I said, gee, I want to learn how they do it. There was a photography portrait studio along the street. As a matter of fact, now that I think of it, it was at Markham and Bloor. And you know where Honest Ed's is? It was right there. There was the studio was there. I went into the photographer and I said, if you will teach me how to make a picture, because I explained what had happened, I said to him, I said, I will gladly do whatever you want. So I did. I washed his floors. I did everything. But he took me into the dark room and showed me how it was done. And what happened? Well, I was, as I say, very inquisitive. So that is how I really got started in photography. I went to see him, and I suggested that, you know, I could do things that they haven't done. Well, Harold Ballard happened to be there. And when he heard some of the things, he figured, give the guy a chance to show what he can do, which I did. Now, the big difference when you're taking pictures of hockey, all the other photographers, I guess I shouldn't really say this because this is giving the secrets away, but every other photographer, when they were taking pictures of for publicity, of the skating, you know, as if it's an action, like you see up there of Gretzky, okay? What happened is they stand up. When you stand up, you shorten a person. I did it the opposite way. I got down on the ice. As a matter of fact, that's why I have arthritic knees today. And that is, I would be down on the ice and I shoot it from a low angle. From a low angle, you're stretching it. Remember, the head is further away from the camera than the feet, right? Okay, that's why you stretch the person and you give the illusion of action. The other pictures, when you're doing it flat on, it doesn't look as if it's action. It's flat. It's dead. It hasn't got the illusion. And that is how, this is where I was way ahead of everybody. I'll tell you, now, I think Harold Ballard was the most maligned individual that you'll get. And I'll tell you why I say that. Harold was the type of individual that gave so much and people didn't know about it. Now, I'm speaking charity and so on. Incidentally, I will say similarly, Conn Smythe. Conn Smythe would give to a charity, but nobody had to know about it. If that charity had said something, they would never get a donation again. But he always did it quietly, and Harold did so many things in a similar fashion. Harold was terrific until he lost his wife. He had originally, his idea was that he and his wife, when he retired, would travel around the world. And Harold was terrific up until the time that he lost his wife, when he was just seeing the time was coming where he would have been able to do what he wanted, to go around the world and so on. And of course, that really affected him. And he was never the same afterwards. As a matter of fact, I used to take a lot of stuff with Bobby Hull, because you got to remember that he had a farm. He had a few farms. And I took the pictures for the Ford Motor Company. And I'd have him on a tractor, things of that nature. And the books that they would put out, they'd need a picture for the front of it and everything. So we did that, all that. Gordie Howe, I was always a real sweetheart of a guy. One thing he always did, he was very professional. When I'd get into a training camp, and we have to take all the players, he was not a prima donna. He came up and said, "Joe, what do you want me to do?" He would be the first one in line, because he knew what had to be done. We did it every year and everything, and I'd go ahead. There'd be others that were prima donnas, and they as if they're doing you a favor, quite frankly. A few of them, I didn't care if they did or didn't, but yeah, there a lot of them, and Bobby Hull was good. We worked together, and also people like Frank Mahovlich. Remember, he was sort of a laid-back guy, and Peter, his brother. All these guys, and oh yeah, there were most of them were a pleasure to work with. I took the first pictures of Wayne Gretzky when he came into the National Hockey League. You got to remember, it was the World Hockey League that he was in before. And I had gone down to, incidentally, I took all the pictures of that league also, because they'd heard, I guess, that what I had done. So I went around from one city to the other and did everybody. And the pictures that I took of Wayne Gretzky in Indianapolis at that time, I think they're really the only ones of that particular, when he was in that, like in that league. But the picture that you see up there was taken out at Jasper in training camp, and that was the first time that Wayne was in the National Hockey League in Edmonton. He was a pleasure to work with, an absolute pleasure. I remember I had never met him before or anything like that, but you got to remember at that time, I think he was 17 or 18 years old, and he was a young person, and everything was new, for him. But he worked, anything I asked him to do, he did it, and he did it beautifully. You've got to remember that with some of the guys, when I ask them to do something, they are doing something that's not natural to them. Because it's the same thing when I say to them, let the stick go down to the puck, but don't touch the puck. Well, that's unusual for them because they're used to hitting the puck. But if they do that, it ruins the picture. Okay? So you get certain guys that they do this, and they would hit the puck because it was just second nature for them, quite frankly. But when you gave Wayne Gretzky any instructions, he followed them exactly. Similarly with Gordie Howe. They would follow those instructions, whereas others, they forgot that they're not supposed to touch the puck. You got to understand that if I was shooting a hockey game today, and with the units that I can get, I can just keep taking as fast as I want. But I couldn't then. So you had to be very selective in what you're shooting, and you got to the point where you knew who the players were, and you got to the point where you knew the habits that those players had. And I could almost tell you exactly what that player would do, whether it would be a backhand shot, a forehand shot, or what, because they all had habits, and we studied those habits. So I knew that if he makes a certain move, I know what's going to be. And this is all part of it.